Like, ew, that type of behavior is just so nasty. Chapter closed, right? Wrong. What the hell does that mean? Like, I was absolutely and utterly disgusted. Have you learned nothing? Major loser energy. This is so lame. Poor girl got attacked. It was just so lame. Like, hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't already know me, or for those of you who are on my channel for the first time, hi, my name is Yasmin. So if you guys have been watching my videos for a while, you would already know that I go to McGill University in Montreal, and I do have to say that today's video is long overdue. I'm not gonna lie. To all my OG subscribers and viewers out there, y'all would already know that my first video on this channel was all about my sorority recruitment experience at McGill. And yeah, I was a member of AOII in my freshman and my sophomore year of uni. So I recently made a video like maybe a couple weeks ago where I talk all about my McGill University experience so far, and I did mention that, you know, there was a point where I was just so fed up with the sorority and it just became such a massive source of negative energy in my life. And so right after sophomore year, I decided to get the hell out of that environment. So I'm currently going into my fourth year at McGill. So it's been a while since I've dropped. Like, it's been almost a year or more than a year now. Honestly, like right now, I just feel like my life is so different, and even I'm so different. And I genuinely sometimes forget about this chunk in my life. But you know, the reason that I haven't really talked about this earlier was because there are a lot of things that went down, and I feel like the wounds were still fresh for some people. I don't know, I just didn't feel like it was the right time to bring anything up. However, like I said, everything's been so different for me, and I feel like publicly on this channel, it's still assumed that I'm affiliated with Greek life, and you know, I'm definitely not. So that's something that I did want to clear up. Before I get into anything, I did want to say that although I am spilling the tea today, you know, I'm not going to be mentioning anyone's name, and there are certain things that were private, so those things will remain private. But you know, I still am going to tell you guys the full truth of everything that happened. And another thing, you know, although I'm not in the sorority, I'm still friends with a lot of the girls, so you know, I don't really have any negative feelings towards anyone. So this is purely for educational purposes, okay? I'm gonna tell you guys about my entire sorority experience and all the things that happened throughout that made me run away. I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be a long video, so grab something to eat, grab something to drink, you know, get comfortable. So as some of you already know, I'm originally Lebanese and I grew up in the United Arab Emirates my entire life. So from kindergarten all the way up until my senior year of high school, I went to the same school. So a big chunk of my friends from Abu Dhabi, I literally consider them to be my family because, you know, we all grew up together, we were raised together, you know, we were all each other's first friends. So I consider our bond to be very special, and, you know, knock on wood, we're still tight to this day. Like, we're all still really good friends to this day. So before I moved to Montreal to study at McGill, like, I didn't feel like I had any issues initiating conversations or trying to make friends. So, you know, when I did decide to move to the other side of the planet, I wasn't necessarily worried about being social. However, unlike most freshmen, I didn't live in dorms in my first year. When I was a freshman, my sister was a senior at McGill, so it just kind of made sense for us to get an apartment together. So for that reason, I was just really worried about having a community, if that makes sense. Because I feel like dorm life in itself, that is its own community, you know, even if you don't necessarily have a lot of friends or you only talk to a few people, there is still this shared experience that you're all having for the first time. I mean, obviously there's so many ways to make friends when you guys get to uni, and I actually have a whole separate video on that, and I linked it in the description box down below. But yeah, again, I just wanted a smaller community and like a home away from home. So when I voiced those concerns to my sister, she was actually the one who suggested for me to rush. At the time, I literally didn't know a single thing about Greek life, obviously, other than all the stereotypes that you see on TV. But what I did know was that Greek life in Canada was not intense like it is in the States at all, and it is a much smaller community. So, you know, for me, I definitely liked the sound of that. I wanted to give it a shot and see what it was about. Something that I really liked about the recruitment experience was that it's not like joining a club where you just pick and choose choose, you know, I want to be part of this, but it's more based on mutual selection. So you're getting to know the sisters and they're getting to know you, and it gives both sides a good idea of, you know, where you'd find what you're looking for. So when I rushed, I learned that, you know, there's a lot of philanthropy, giving back to the community, working on your skills, networking, applying for executive positions. Like there's just so much you can do. It was very cool and versatile. It's a completely new environment to me. Why wouldn't I give it a shot? So I ended up choosing AOII, and that's more specifically for the reason that it's the most diverse out of the rest, both in terms of personalities and backgrounds. And for me, I like that because I assumed that that would make it a safe space for, you know, many different kinds of people, or just everybody in general. In my first year, I actually really loved my sorority. I loved the girls. To me, at least, it did feel very genuine. I definitely feel like I got a lot of good things out of it. I met a lot of new people, was introduced to new perspectives. There was this big, wholesome sisterhood culture that was there. So yeah, we did have a lot of fun at the time. If I'm being honest, the one thing that I don't want to say bothered me, but the one thing that I couldn't ignore was the fact that I just felt so different than everybody. I mean, obviously we're all very like-minded, so there's definitely a lot of similarities and we all got along, but I don't know, I just felt different in the sense that I don't really feel like anyone really understood me. Greek life is definitely, you know, a whole culture on its own, and I don't feel like I felt different because, you know, of my background necessarily, not at all. I literally didn't care that no one was from the Middle East. Like I was literally the only Arab. On the contrary, like that's so much more fun for me because I'm being exposed to so many new cultures and, you know, different kinds of people and perspectives. And, you know, either way, I've always had like an international diverse background, you know, in my school, in my upbringing, in my environment, all that. So it wasn't like it was anything that was new to me. But yeah, I always felt that when it really comes down to it, I don't know, I always felt a little bit of distance, if that makes sense. I feel like I didn't realize it at the time, but Greek life as a greater whole is just, it really doesn't do it for me. What's nice is that you can be as involved as you want to be. Like some people are so intense and some people literally don't show up to anything that isn't mandatory. For me, I was just somewhere in between. In my first year, I had 2 positions and they were both pretty lax, but, you know, I ran for them because I still wanted to be involved. You know, like I said, I still really loved it and I wanted to make the effort to contribute towards the organization. Honestly, being involved kept us all pretty close. We saw each other a lot. It was a thing that, you know, Thursdays are for AOII, so even if you aren't that close, you're not that involved, like no matter what is going on throughout your day or with the week, we all have this time to gather together and just, you know, have fun and spend some quality time. And honestly, like I said, in first year, it was lots of fun. Like it was very good energy and I felt like no matter what was going on, when we'd all be together, like everyone's just happy to see each other. Again, you know, even though I did feel a little bit of distance, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I just knew that, you know, the sorority isn't gonna be my main thing. So in the end of the day, no matter where you are, in a group of like 60, 70 people, there's bound to be disagreements and drama, especially when there's such a variety in personalities. For me personally, I kept far away from the drama. Like I had good relations with everyone, I would say. There were a couple of people that were just problematic in general, you know, I would say, just like there is everywhere. What I mean by problematic, I mean it in the sense that some people don't understand that they're entitled to their own opinions, but they cannot impose their opinions onto others. Like, again, I stayed away from the drama, but when those people become way too vocal, it begins to create this aura where you and others, you're not comfortable to truly express yourself on a larger scale. And I really, really hated that, especially because it's like those 1, 2, 3 people who are just, they're taking away that safety from everyone. You know, you're ruining it for everyone else who's part of this sisterhood. Personally, I'm just someone who's so okay being who I am. I'm very comfortable with myself and I wouldn't change that for anyone. And you know, when you're with your sisters, you're supposed to be free to be who you are and you don't have to worry about if anyone's gonna judge you or attack you or alienate you or repeat what you said to others in a way that only they understood it. So, you know, just in general, from a distance, I really didn't like this discomfort that existed. Personally, I'm more of a private person. Like, no matter how much you know me, I feel like you still don't really know me. I know that's ironic because I literally have a YouTube channel and I talk all about my life and my experiences, but you know, in the end of the day, my personal life is personal and I have the right to choose, you know, who I want to share those things with. For me, there is only very few that I am happy to share with, and those are the people that I know that even if any differences existed between us, they would see those differences as opportunities to learn something new, to be introduced to a new perspective, rather than see those differences as points of conflict, because they aren't. Having differences isn't wrong. But yeah, overall, you know, I had my close friends in the sorority that I was comfortable with, and you know, I was happy with that. So like, I didn't really feel the need to be besties with everyone. I don't know, maybe I'm just not like that. So moving on, in my first year, March 2020, COVID hits, right? Everything shifts online. So I mentioned this in one of my McGill videos before, but in my first year, I don't really feel like I made that much of an effort to be on campus, just because I know that I wasn't that comfortable yet. And you know, as soon as I did grow more comfortable, we all shifted online and like everything became remote. So I just felt disconnected all over again. Regarding the sorority, it is hard to keep people involved and motivated to contribute, but at the same time, I feel like there really was an effort being made by everyone to come up with different ways to keep the sisterhood alive. But unfortunately, as we all know, being online is really not the same. So we ended up having fall 2020 recruitment during summer 2020 instead, like it just happened earlier, just because of the way things were, of course. Usually almost everyone is involved during recruitment, but you know, because the logistics were kind of hard to figure out at the time, there were only very few who actually did recruit and get to meet the new pledge class. So we ended up having so many new girls, like they literally made up half the sorority, and you know, at the time, everyone wanted to get involved. So of course, for that reason, the dynamic shifted. But honestly, everyone was nice and like wanted to make an effort to know each other. So, you know, that was cool. However, it goes without saying that, you know, when things are online, there's a lot of body language and environmental cues that you're not going to be seeing from other people. So you're really not getting to know them on that real level or on that deeper level. After everyone got established and familiar with each other, you know, again, it is a big group of people, so there's bound to be differences, which is okay. But when things are online, it's so much easier for people to just hide behind a screen or for things to just happen under the table. What I mean is, when people aren't physically present, it's so much easier for people to be talking shit, starting fights, for you to confront someone, etc., etc., just because you don't necessarily have that obligation of being physically around them. Again, for me personally, I stayed out of drama. Like, I was friends with everyone, and even though I had friends that didn't necessarily like each other, I kept out of it. However, the new drama that came up was just so unbelievably excessive. Like, there was suddenly just so much going on between a lot of people a lot of the time. This in itself really shows you a different side to someone. You know, it's one thing when you're upset and you're just complaining about a sister because she bothered you or she's just being annoying. That's natural. It's one thing when you complain, but it's a whole other thing when you're dragging this poor girl's name into the mud or like ripping her personality apart in front of others. For me, I was just shocked by some people, you know, like, is this what you call sisterhood? Like what are you doing? What are you doing here? Why are you part of this entire organization if this is the type of person you want to be? One thing that I hated, but of course had to be present, was issues that were surrounding COVID. Again, this also shows you someone's true colors, and it shows you whether, you know, they really only care about themselves or they also care about the health and the wellness of their communities. And honestly, it's kind of an ugly thing. Like, sometimes you really love someone, but they're just so individualistic, you know, it's not a nice thing. What I noticed is a lot of people's personal choices was being rolled over into the work that was being done in the sorority, because, you know, COVID does correlate to responsibility in a sense. It shows you in real life or death situations, do you give a shit about the people around you? And if not, how are you gonna fairly deal with any type of responsibility that's going to be happening in the sorority? So yeah, the drama and the gossip really tainted the aura. Like, there was just a lot of negativity, and we're hearing about it all the time, you know, especially this is during peak COVID time. So like, everyone's having a hard time in their life, and like, this is the last thing that you need to add on to it. It just started to feel so fake, because like, you have to maintain this image of sisterhood, especially on social media, but you know, what people are seeing is not what's actually happening in the sorority. So I obviously felt the distance from the online aspect, and I also chose to distance a little because of all the negativity and the chaos. But you know, despite all of that, I did make some really good friends. My best friend at the time was in the sorority and we were together every single day. So I think like that was the reason that I didn't feel completely disconnected from AOPI. During my second year, I was also vice president of membership recruitment. And what that means is I'm basically just in charge of all the logistics of recruitment for the entire year. So for that reason, I'm working with a lot of different people, and like I was very involved in the sorority. So I like had the obligation of, you know, showing up to everything. But I do want to say that despite the efforts for everyone to keep the sisterhood alive, the meetings, the Zoom calls, it just became so unbelievably forced. Like it was so mundane. I really hated participating. I didn't want to go to anything anymore. Everything just started to feel very surface level when we were, you know, all gathered as the big group, because again, you know, we all know what's happening. We all know the drama that's going on between people. So the vibes were just so off. Honestly, it wasn't like that at the beginning, but you know, that's what it ended up becoming. So at this point, I was really considering going on status. So what that means is that you're still a member of the organization, but you're basically taking a break. Like you don't go to anything or participate. You know, you don't have any positions or obligations. However, because I was VPMR at the time, you know, it's an important position. Everyone's relying on you for recruitment. Stuck it out. I told myself that once the fall comes, fall 2021 recruitment ends, I would go on status, or I would even drop the sorority. Honestly, not for nothing, but it just came to a point where we can't enjoy anything without there being drama present. For example, we have something called roseball. Okay, roseball is kind of like our prom. It happens once a year when we're all done with classes. So similar to prom, we have awards, right? It's not king, queen, princess, blah blah, but we have things like who's the funniest, who's the mom of the group, who has the most school spirit, blah blah blah. You know, just fun things to add to the event. So there's this one award, and it goes to the AOPI Sweetheart. Sweetheart is present in every single sorority and frat. It's basically someone who isn't part of the organization, but they come to all the events, they really support us, everyone loves them, blah blah blah. So some people were really not happy with who got the awards, and you know, I understand that maybe for like one or two people it was personal, but this is like literally where all the problems began. Suddenly everyone starts accusing others of rigging votes, everyone starts fighting, no one trusts each other. It just caused this domino effect of unnecessary drama, in my opinion. I'm not gonna lie, it really reminded me of my high school prom, because you know, at the time I was on the prom committee and people weren't happy with who got king and queen, and they were like, oh, you know, of course it's rigged, and one guy was mad and one girl was crying in the bathroom. And I literally remember saying like, this is so lame. Like, guys, no one gives a shit about this stuff. No one cares. It's just prom entertainment. Like, it's just something fun to add to the event and waste some time, you know? And so when all this drama was happening with Roseball, I literally had the same thought. I was just like, come on, like, it's really not that big of a deal. Again, I get it with people who have personal issues, because of course, you know, you don't want to be represented, or you don't want to be associated with this person. That's fine. Totally understandable. But I just didn't understand why things had to escalate far beyond that. And I'm gonna get deeper into that right now. So what happens is, at one point, someone outside the sorority creates this fake Instagram account using the AOPI brand, and they start posting confidential chats from the sorority council group chats. It really wasn't anything big or major, but just the idea of someone leaking what's supposed to be private just really wasn't cool, and it angered a lot of people. The thing is, this account was clearly made just to trigger others, and the problem was people were getting triggered. Like, it's just fighting fire with fire. You know, I do have to admit that there was one thing that really bothered me, just because it was targeted and unnecessary, but you know, I'll get to that later. At the same time, I knew exactly what these people were trying to do, and you know, I didn't want to feed into that negativity or give them that satisfaction. Overall, it was just so lame. Like, someone who's not even an AOPI is going so out of their way to piss off a group of girls that are like 6 years younger than him, you know? Like what are you doing? You know, go get a life. Anyways, this literally went on from like April, May, all the way until the end of summer. It just felt never ending. You know, again, this issue didn't really personally affect me, so I didn't really care, but it wasn't fun as VPM them are, because my job is also to keep things under control for recruitment, and things were not really under control. But I felt even this gave me more of a reason to drop, just because again, it was just so much bad energy. I'm not gonna lie, even more so, it was giving me major loser energy, and I just, keep me away from that. So moving on, summer came along, okay? So all of this was happening around the same time, like April, May, June 2021. So we all know that during COVID, a lot of political issues were coming to light. They always existed before, but people were now just shifting their attention, right? So let me give you a little bit more information about myself and my background before I even begin to get into this. We all know this, I'm originally Lebanese. I grew up in the United Arab Emirates my entire life, right? Alhamdulillah, I had the best childhood growing up. I had the best life. I literally wouldn't change anything for the world, and I'm so thankful for everything. But one thing that we were taught was that in that culture, or at least in the UAE, we do not openly talk politics, especially there are certain political issues that are just considered taboo. You are free to think whatever you want to think, but keep those thoughts to yourself. Simply, I noticed that, especially in North America, it's hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around this. And I know it's because, in Canada and in the States, people are very vocal about their political opinions. Honestly, personally, I don't believe that one is right and one is wrong from either side. Like, it's just different for different reasons, and I think that's fine. So I don't know if this is because of the way that I grew up or, what, but I really believe that your politics is private to a certain extent. Don't get me wrong, I study and I work in development, so I'm someone who's very open to debate and very open to educating myself and others on different perspectives. And I think, as you guys can tell already, I'm very not afraid to openly talk about my opinions. I strongly stand by them. However, I can do that because I can understand that the way that I think, what I support, what I believe is all shaped not just by what I've been learned and taught, but also more importantly, it's shaped by my personal experiences. In that same way, I understand that others function in that same way too. Even if we are on complete opposite sides of the spectrum, you are one way for a reason, just as I am one way for another, simply. Anyways, for this reason, I like to say, it's a skill that I have. No, I'm kidding. But naturally for me, it's easy to separate my politics from my relationships, whether it be friendships, business partners, really whatever it is. And to be honest, I like it that way, again, to a certain extent. So to get to the point, let's bring it back to the sorority. During this time where a lot of people are so charged up, there is an unbelievable amount of hate and danger and violence that's surrounding a lot of minority groups. So keep in mind, AOII around this time is still a bit diverse, so there's a lot of people with different experiences. So I think it's fair to say that there are several people going through a hard time, me included. Unfortunately, the hate and the danger that some minority groups were facing is not a separate issue from what was happening in the world. The more that these political issues come to light, the more hate and danger and violence that these minority groups are facing. Again, it's sad, it's unfortunate, it's sad, but not the whole world is educated. The second something happens, suddenly people are lumping others into one big category. It causes a lot of problems, people become targeted, there's a lot of discrimination. For this reason, some of the girls felt like they needed a support system, and I totally agree with that. I understand it was a chaotic time. For me personally, when I feel something bad happens and it has to do with my identity or my religious background, or even when something really tragic happens in Lebanon, as it has been for the past couple of years now, there's really only one person that I ever turn to in the sorority, because I don't know, I just feel like she understands, not because she's going through the same thing, but like even if she didn't understand, I feel like she just created this space for me where I feel heard and supported. There's also been times where sisters would reach out to me because they acknowledge that I'm probably going through a hard time, even if I don't talk about it or if I haven't opened up about it. It means a lot to me because, they want to offer that support. So that's all to say, I get it. It's good to have that support system to fall back on. We all agree and we all want to create this space where we can empathize with one another and be supportive of one another. So some of these girls, they come together, they draft up a letter, and they're basically expressing that this is all separate from politics, but they want their sisters to acknowledge what they're going through, and that, you know, they're very hurt and they're disappointed in the sorority for not publicly posting about these social issues on social media. However, this is what started to bother me. The entire letter revolved around the political climate that we were under at the time. Like, the letter literally began saying, because this is what's happening in this part of the world, this is what our group is facing, or these are the social issues that are coming up. That's the thing, you know, that these social issues and political issues are connected. So you can't say that, you know what, we have to talk about these things online, but let's keep it separate from the politics. You know that you can't keep it separate from the politics. Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know, make it make sense. Anyways, I'm not gonna say any details about this letter other than the fact that whoever wrote it obviously didn't read it twice, because some of the things that were said were problematic and not to mention very insulting. The thing is, that was definitely not the intention. So the letter itself was not the problem. The problem is what happened afterwards. So one of the sisters, I'm gonna call her Tina, okay? Tina very respectfully expressed her feelings and said, you know what? I support you 100%, no questions asked. But some things that are mentioned in the letter are problematic, and if you guys want to talk about this openly and you want it to come from the chapter, then it means that it's also going to be coming from me. And again, you know, just some of the things don't align with what I believe is to be right. And if we're going to be talking about this without acknowledging how all the people affected might be feeling, then it's basically like taking a political stance, and that's going to affect, hurt, and alienate some of the current and future AOII sisters. And not to mention, despite all of that, we don't agree with his political stance anyway. Guys, poor girl got attacked simply for just expressing her feelings. Look, the thing is, me and her were on the same side, okay? So an attack on her is an attack on us, and I agree with what she said 100%, and I completely back her. Honestly, we're a part of the same minority group. It's literally only 2 of us in the entire sorority, you know? The problem was I was on a different time zone than everyone, so I was asleep through all of this. Like, I literally had zero idea what was happening in the council group chat. Tina literally texted me crying, saying all I did was say my opinion because, like, it's personal to us too, and they're shutting me up, and like no one is standing up for me, and it sucks. So for us, I feel like this is the moment when we realize, when it really comes down to it, the sorority is very, very far from creating a space where women support all women. It is very, very far from diversity, equity, inclusivity. So this conversation, argument, disagreement, whatever you want to call it, this just keeps going on and on. So what happens is, one of the girls sends a text and she's like, you know what guys, I'm just gonna send you this Reddit post, and it's basically just gonna explain to you exactly how I'm feeling. I feel like it will just best, you know, explain everything that I'm trying to say. Like, it sends the message that I'm trying to send. The entire topic of the Reddit post was about why we should not be talking about the hurt that both sides are experiencing and why that's wrong. Like, oh my god, I was absolutely and utterly disgusted. Just because you're talking for one minority doesn't mean that you have the right to gaslight another minority. Like, ew, it was all just so toxic. And it doesn't end there. Let me give you another really up example. Okay, so remember how I said there's some loser who has some extra time on his hands who created this account using the AOII brand just to like piss off a bunch of people? Literally the next day after all of this happens, he posts on this account taking a purely political stance on the matter, and it's specifically targeted towards me and Tina. Like, again, I don't want to go into too much detail, I don't want to say too much, but literally anyone anywhere with eyes can see that this post came from a place of hatred, and it's obviously very targeted. At this point, you know, me and Tina, we couldn't take it anymore. You know, like, all the problems that occurred happened within the sorority council group chat, which, by the way, already became such an unsafe space for us to express anything. So if this random loser is out here posting about it on this account, then again, there's obviously someone in the group chat who's leaking all this information that's supposed to be private. The thing is, we're not stupid. We all know who those sisters are. Like, we all know who's feeding this man information. But you want to know the funny part? Those sisters that are leaking all this information are saying, they say that they're free to talk about the things that hurt them with others. But you know what? If those others are going to use all the things that you say to go around and then attack your sisters, then that attack, that message, it's coming from you. Me and Tina would literally text each other like, what the is this? Like, Who does this? Such an attack. Like, what did we say? We didn't do anything. We didn't do anything, you know? Like, at one point, we just felt so unsafe in the sorority. Like, what? We can't even express a feeling? What? Do our feelings not matter? Do we not matter too? From the first place, me and Tina, we didn't want anything to be posted in this matter anyway, just because, as proven, no matter what you say, there's going to be a political context behind it. You know, even if you want to talk about these social issues in this political climate, you can't. Simply, you cannot. It's highly inappropriate, and it's going to cause major consequences right now and in the future. Like, I didn't understand, how do people not see that if this matter is still only a discussion and we're being attacked and alienated and discriminated against by our sisters, our community, our support system, like it's all so fake. But all of this, it clearly goes to show that this matter is too complex for a bunch of 19-year-olds to sit and want to make a social media post about it. Chill. Like, I literally didn't understand, why is everyone so pressed to publicly talk about this? Like, we're not a political club. Chill. No other sorority, no other frat is posting about this online, as they shouldn't be. Your politics is yours, just as my politics is mine. What about it? Honestly, I do want to point out though that our chapter's head of diversity, equity, and inclusion during this whole chaos, during this time, was phenomenal. She was really a wonderful support system, and she handled everything so graciously. Like, despite whatever she agreed or disagreed with, she remained very neutral, which was definitely the right thing to do. I even remember there was one message in the group chat, and this was from one of the sisters that's outside of the minority groups, and she was just like, hey, like, I support and we all understand this is important, blah blah blah, but like, why are we so adamant on posting something online? Like, isn't it important that we're educating the sisters within the sorority and we make sure that we're fostering a healthy community within? This message in itself, it shows you that not everyone's on the same page. Not everyone agrees with what's going on here. So anyways, a couple days pass. One of the sister messages the group chat, and she's like, hey, so I don't know exactly where we go from here, so I guess I'm just gonna draft a post to post on the Instagram about this. Have you learned nothing? This girl says, we don't want to harm anyone else, but not posting is harming us. What the hell does that mean? Like, I'm sorry, I don't know. You guys are literally obsessed with everything being on social media, but relax, take a step back. Like, I don't even know how to explain. At this point, it was just so emotionally exhausting to repeat ourselves again and again. These people, they literally just didn't understand that you can't force us to post something that we don't all collectively agree with talking about online. Like, some of the sisters would literally message me and Tina privately and say like, hey, I agree with you 100%, we shouldn't be posting about this, let's just work on this within the sorority, blah blah blah. But the problem was, no one was saying a single thing on the group chat, and that's because, if you can imagine, you know, the group chat became like, literally at this point, no one can even talk to each other. Oh my god, I literally don't know why I didn't turn on the light earlier. Anyways, you know, the next day passes. Tina and I, we draft up a statement to send to the sorority group chat, and this was our last time repeating ourselves. It was basically like the last thing that we wanted to say. Basically states everything that I talked about before. You know, we're not a political group, we're a sorority. You know, these issues are too complex, too inappropriate, too political to be talking about, especially given the timing of it all. Like, it's just wrong. You know, our sorority is about diversity and inclusion, so our job is to remain truly neutral. You know, you don't come from the same world as us. We have our own pain and suffering, the exact same way as you have your own pain and suffering. And it's ironic, you say you want inclusivity, but the second that one of us expresses a feeling or a thought, you attack us for it. Like, look at all of this. This is no longer a safe space for us. And you know, we're not asking for you to post in support of us. Also, we're not asking you to agree with our personal opinions. We don't want any of that. We just want everything to be neutral. We want neutrality, simply. What I believe is my business. What you believe is your business, not the sororities. Of course, we condemn all the hatred in the world. We are also experiencing it too. But you also have to understand that it's impossible to be posting something without sending a political message, especially one that we don't agree with. Mic drop. I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, point blank, that's it. Like, that's it. Khalas, you know, what is all this chaos? It's disgusting. Anyway, so a lot of the sisters basically, you know, watching from the outside, they messaged, you know, again, me and Tina privately, of course, saying, you know, thank you, that was very mature of you guys, you handled it correctly, I completely agree, blah 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 blah. At this point, we all thought, chapter closed, right? Wrong. Chapter 1 being open, okay? Honestly, what was so hurtful to me and what I didn't expect at all was following all of this. After we sent this letter, some of the girls have the audacity to say things or to label us with words that truly only come from a place of hatred. Really, I'm not just saying this, but I'm someone who doesn't have a discriminating bone in my body. I love all people and I accept all people, even to the point where my friends are like, Yasmin, like you have a very interesting mix of friends, and I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, so for someone to come and to label me something so ugly or something, you know, with so much hate, even though of course it's not true, like it's such a very bad feeling. At the end of the day, I know who I am, so I'm not worried. But the fact that someone is trying to belittle me or trying to make me look small, you're trying to make me look uneducated, you know, simply you are just being a bully. And for what? Like why are you being so hateful? I can't wrap my head around it. What? Because we're different? Because we're born in different parts of the world as you? Because I follow a different religion? What? Because I have a different skin color than yours? What? Is it because I have a different opinion than you? What is it that bothers you? I don't get it. And what I don't understand even more is how is this coming from my sorority sisters? One of the closest girls to me, we didn't talk throughout this entire process, not for nothing, but I think the both of us felt like, okay, there is a lot of tension going on, and like let's just like not talk because we are on completely opposite sides of the spectrum. This girl literally reaches out to me and is like, I don't know, like we think so differently, how can we be friends? Bye-bye. Like, ew, that type of behavior is just so nasty. I don't want to be friends with people like that. So yeah, you know, obviously for me this was my tipping point. Like I was just disgusted by the behavior. Why am I in an organization that discriminates others like this and is going to ostracize me? Like, especially after all of this, like in my eyes, Greek life is so much more fake than it is. You know, I'm not dying to be here. I could literally care less. Bye-bye. And honestly, despite all of that, Tina still had it worse than me. I think maybe because she was like a bit more vocal about her opinions. It really hurts me to see that, because maybe because she joined the year after me and like we're just very similar. I consider her literally to be like my little sister. To me, AOII just became a group of two people: bullies and people who are silenced by bullies. So yeah, that's all of it. That's the story. Greek life, it's not for me. And Tina obviously ended up dropping, and then a lot of people ended up dropping for a lot of different reasons, and later on we realized that a lot of people were dropping from all of the other sororities too. In conclusion, that's my story. I'm super disaffiliated from AOII and from Greek life. Of course, you know, there's still girls that I still love so much. And like whenever I see them or like I introduce them to someone, I'm like, oh my god, like that's my sister. And we're still friends. All this happened like a year ago. Honestly, no one cares. I don't even care. I'm someone who also truly believes that the universe is always working to serve your highest good. Like everything happens in your favor. And I feel like me leaving the sorority also really forced me to like be more of my own person and explore myself and find a community that I truly feel comfortable in, and I feel like is for me. And you know, so far, knock on wood, alhamdulillah, like I think I'm at the happiest that I've been my entire uni experience. And yeah, guys, thanks for listening to me ramble for a very long time. I think the funniest part of this all is like literally on my Instagram, I posted on my story like, guess what gossip sesh I'm gonna be talking about on my next video, and put a poll, and one of the options was like why I dropped my sorority. There was literally a good 4, 5, 6 people who were like, please talk about the sorority, like drag AOII through the mud. And like, look, my intention is definitely not to drag anyone anywhere. I'm genuinely I'm just talking about like my experience, and just because this was my experience definitely does not mean you're gonna have the same experience. Everyone goes through something different. My conclusion was that it's fake and not worth my time, and like I still make good friends out of it. And that's that. Anyways, guys, if you like these spill the tea, you know, gossip session type of videos, let me know in the comments down below, and let me know if there's any videos you guys ever want me to make, and I'll be more than happy to do them. See you guys next week.